is the global news update on top accolade news. The headlines: Kilmar Abrego Garcia alleges abuse after wrongful U.S. deportation. South Korea reforms martial law rules. German minister seeks direct deportation deal with Taliban. U.S.-India trade talks near deadline. We'll start with the focus in politics. Kilmar Abrego Garcia alleges abuse after wrongful U.S. deportation. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a legally residing Salvadoran man in Maryland who was mistakenly deported by the Trump administration in March, was severely beaten and psychologically tortured in El Salvador's notorious prison, according to new court finding. Despite the 2019 court order barring his deportation due to threat from gangs, Abrego Garcia was sent back and later described enduring sleep deprivation, starvation, and constant abuse. He lost 31 pounds in 2 weeks and was threatened with placement among violent inmates. Returned to the U.S. after public outcry, he now faces federal charges of human smuggling, which he denies. His civil lawsuit against the U.S. government argues that his deportation violated due process. The Department of Homeland Security continues to label him a gang member without providing evidence, calling media coverage sympathetic and misleading. Still in politics, South Korea reforms martial law rules. South Korea's parliament has approved a revision to martial law regulations following public outrage over former President Yoon Suk Yeol's abrupt declaration of martial law last December. The updated rules now explicitly prohibit military or police forces from entering the National Assembly without the Speaker's approval and bar any attempt to obstruct lawmakers' access to the building. Yoon's decree, which lasted 6 hours, drew widespread criticism from lawmakers that had to scale walls to bypass security forces and vote it down. The move is seen as a safeguard to preserve democratic process in times of crisis. Moving on in politics, German minister seeks direct deportation deal with Taliban. Germany's interior minister has called for direct negotiation with the Taliban to facilitate the deportation of Afghan migrants, particularly convicted criminals from Germany, despite Berlin not recognizing the Taliban as a legitimate government. The minister said relying on third-party intermediaries for talk is not sustainable. Deportations to Afghanistan resumed in August 2024 with the help of regional partners. The move aligns with the conservative bloc's broader immigration stance under Chancellor Friedrich Merz, which include halting refugee programs and limiting family reunifications. Talks are also ongoing with Syria's new Islamist-led government for similar deportation agreements. Migration has become a hot-button issue in Germany amid rising far-right sentiment and recent violation incidents involving migrants. Turning to economy, U.S.-India trade talks near deadline. U.S. and India trade negotiators are racing to finalize a tariff deduction deal ahead of President Donald Trump's July 9 deadline, though key disagreements on U.S. dairy and genetically modified agricultural imports remain unresolved. While Trump recently struck a partial deal with Vietnam to ease tariff, tension with India persists, with Trump threatening a 26% tariff on Indian goods, temporarily reduced to 10% pending talks. India is resisting concessions on sensitive farm products, but may allow lower tariff on items like fruits, medical devices, and energy goods. Officials on both sides said a deal is within reach, recognizing its strategic value beyond economics. You're watching the Global News Update on Top Accolade News. Do stay with us. Still to come. Thanks for staying with us. In international relations, Ukraine alarmed as US halts arms shipment. Ukraine has expressed alarm and confusion after the US abruptly halted some key weapon shipments, including Patriot air defense missiles, prompting fears of increased vulnerability amid escalating Russian airstrikes. Ukrainian officials said they were not notified in advance and summoned a top US diplomat in Kyiv for clarification. President Zelensky warned that continued American support is vital for Ukraine's defense as Russia steps up missile and drone attacks. The move, reportedly linked to a policy shift under President Trump's administration, drew harsh criticism from Kyiv and concern from residents bracing for intensified bombardment. Meanwhile, Moscow welcomed the pause, saying it could hasten the end of the war. Moving to crime. Brian Koberger gets 4 life sentences in University of Idaho killings. Brian Koberger, the man accused of fatally stabbing 4 University of Idaho students in 2022, pleaded guilty on Wednesday in a deal that spares him death penalty but guarantees 4 consecutive life sentences without a possibility of appeal. The former criminal justice PhD student entered his plea calmly in an Idaho court, admitting to the November 13 rampage that shocked the town of Moscow. The prosecutors outlined a premeditated attack and effort to cover up the crime. They said no clear motive or sexual component was found. The plea deal, which split the victim's family, avoids a lengthy trial but leaves key questions unanswered. Formal sentencing is set for July 23rd. In entertainment, Diddy found guilty of transporting women for prostitution. Hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs will remain in custody after being convicted by a New York jury for transporting a woman for prostitution, though he was acquitted of the more serious racketeering and sex trafficking charges. U.S. District Judge denied bail, citing mandatory detention law and the risk of flight, despite defense arguments highlighting Combs' cooperation, lack of prior conviction, and time already served. The charges stem from disturbing testimonies involving coerced sex acts and drug use in what prosecutors called a pattern of abuse. Combs, who faces up to 20 years in prison for the 2 counts, is due to be sentenced on October 3rd. Now in sports, Liverpool star Diogo Jota dies in tragic car crash in Spain. Tragedy has struck the football world as Liverpool forward Diogo Jota, 28, and his 26-year-old brother was killed in a car crash in Spain early Thursday morning. The Portuguese Football Federation confirmed the death, calling them irreparable losses for the nation's football community. Spanish authorities said the Lamborghini the brothers were driving in veered off the road and burst into flames, with autopsies now pending. Jota, who recently got married on June 28, had a successful career with Liverpool, scoring 65 goals since joining from Wolves in 2020 and helping secure the Premier League, FA Cup, and League Cup titles. He also earned 49 caps for Portugal, twice lifting the UEFA Nations League trophy. That concludes our global news updates for today. Stay tuned for more global news and developments. Thanks for joining us. I am Ojorumi Okocha. Connect and engage with us on all our social media handles. Do have a wonderful day.